Okay, everyone. Welcome to Medicine Buddha. I'm Lama Rod. It's good to see everyone back and joining us. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. That'll be wonderful. Where you're practicing at, where you're tuning in from. I'm here. I'm back on in the ancestral land, so Skokie, Cherokee, and Creek folks, communities, people here in Atlanta. So it's really good to be with everyone. If you're here for the first time, feel free to say hello. I would love to hear, actually, just a quick note from people who joined us for the first time, maybe in the past couple of weeks. And I'm just always curious to see who I scare away with these talks. Wait till I get into the Matrix. If you think you've heard some intense talks, wait till I get hooked on the Matrix, which I won't today. Okay. Again, any questions, you can just post in the ask a question. I don't think I got 2 questions last week. So I'm gonna make an effort to. So if you had a question last week, please post it again, and I'll get to it. I'll make time for that. Let's see, announcements. So this is going up pretty soon. July 9th, which is, was it Sunday or Saturday? It's July 9th. Anyway, July 9th, we will be hosting a 1-day online Medicine Buddha retreat. So I've been threatening this for a while now, so we got it going finally. So that registration, everything will be up hopefully by tomorrow or by Wednesday. Now we're asking for just like a registration fee. The registration fee is partially to support the labor that Bhumi Sparsha is doing to host everything. And part of the registration fee goes back to me. So you don't have to worry about, trying to like offer me Donna or whatever. And just pay whatever you can as well. And again, all that money, is going to support, me and the community. So we want to start doing more of this through the summer and through the year and forever, hopefully. Right? So July 9th, it will be 10 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. And I hope all of our UK people can join us as well with that. We're having a mother practice as well, sacred mother practice that's going to be posted as well pretty soon for July. And also this week for me, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I will be offering a free workshop session for those of you who identify as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, Black and Brown. And I'm offering a session on working with grief. And that registration is on my website, but you can go and just register for that as well. So that's tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Wednesday night evening, I'm offering a Dharma talk for Spirit Rock's Rainbow Sangha. And that's going to be, let's see, Pacific time. So 6 o'clock to 7:30 Pacific time. Eastern time, 9 to 10:30 tomorrow. So that's up. So yeah, Karen has put that up. So Rainbow Queer Sangha, Wednesday night Spirit Rock online. And I'm sure and then think that's it for the week in terms of public programming. So once you get signed up for the BIPOC program tomorrow, you'll be introduced to a series of programs I'll be doing through the end of July for BIPOC communities as well. Yep, and of course in August, I have the retreat up at in New Hampshire, in-person retreat. I think it will also be partially online as well. And that's at Wonderwell Retreat Center, August 17th to 21st, and we're calling it Tantric Summer. At least in my head, it's called Tantric Summer, but it's, Tantric practices. So that's up in New Hampshire, August 17th through the 21st. I will be in DC offering a talk on August 25th, I think, Thursday, whatever that Thursday of that week is. I'm offering just an evening lecture. Strangely enough, I don't know what that lecture is going to be about. But you have to register for that, and you have to buy tickets for that. So that's on my website as well. So just give you a heads up. There's going to be some other things. If you're here in the Southeast United States, I'm also offering a in-person retreat at Southern Dharma Retreat Center outside of Asheville. And that's going to be the second week in December. And that's going to go live. This hasn't gone live yet, but that'll probably go live later this week for registration. So there's going to be more stuff. We're going to be adding lots of more stuff as well. So anyway, welcome to our practice tonight. You can go ahead and start posting any prayer requests as well. So Karen's putting everything up. Thank you, Karen, for doing that. What I really need is just someone following me around all the time, just like dictating what I say and making it happen. I really, quite honestly, don't know any details about anything. I have these strong general feelings that something's happening and something's coming up, and that's really often all I have to work with. Some of you are in the same boat. I work off of feelings, not off of details. Which actually, this is probably why the world's in the having the problems that it's having right now, because we're all working on our feelings or our impressions and not actually working with data about how to change things. But anyway, so questions, prayer requests, you can go ahead and start posting those as well. We're probably just going to continue with the same kind of practice. I'll just go back really briefly. I want to do this now because by the end, I really won't have it together to offer details. But for our one-day retreat, this is going to be a really nice intro for those of us who are maybe just joining these sessions. I'll be using, I can never have books readily accessible. But I'll be going through Changpa Rinpoche's book called Medicine Buddha, and just giving some commentary on his work, which was really the basic book that I used on top of the teachings from my own teacher. And I may offer some recorded teachings from my teachers as well. And I may put together some resources for us to read as well and offer that. Just some pre-reading. You don't have to buy the book for the retreat, but I will just probably scan some pages and just put it in a Google Doc, and you all can just access it when the time comes. So anyway, enough of that. So again, welcome. Again, you can go ahead and start adding prayer requests as well. I've got my incense going. Um, I do enjoy the cleansing properties of incense. And if you can tolerate incense, I know some of us have really strong sensibilities um, towards incense, but if you can kind of offer this more in your space, and we've talked about this before, we actually talked about this last week, incense having multiple purposes in Tibetan tantric practice. We use incense to cleanse space, to as an offering for different beings in the space, but we also use it to invite beings into the space. So the idea is that beings of light beings, right, are attracted to the sweetness, to the sweetness of everything, to the sweetness of incense, to the sweetness of, you know, things that you use to decorate your home. They're attracted to light um, as well. So I love to keep incense going when I'm away from my home and for a bit. And when I come back to the home, I offer incense, particularly. Every morning I try to offer incense, but it doesn't always work out that way. Um, okay. So incense and what else? What else are we working with? I'm gonna actually take a look at the question. I'm just seeing if the questions will impact. Um, so this is a really good question. So I'm going to offer this question here. So I've been practicing. Oh, it's Flory. I've been practicing calling medicine Buddha at work, and it's helping me weather really intense things while standing. Um, I'm wondering if I'm using the practice to stay in places that I am no longer resonating with. How do I discern using practice to support what I need to learn or staying at tables that aren't meant for me? Now, I think that this is a really interesting question because as we've talked about often about energy and consciousness, we are evoking the consciousness of Medicine Buddha. Medicine Buddha consciousness is just an emanation or an expression of the greater consciousness, right? This great phenomena of intelligent energy, right? And we can call that energy God, we call it Buddha nature, we call it, just essence, a phenomena which is emptiness, space, and energy. So when we're working with intelligent, enlightened, right? So when is we talked about this last week. So if you want just a little more support in this, I would advise you just to go back to last week's session where I talked a lot about this. But I'm just going to talk briefly about this again, where so when we're so when a consciousness, so when awareness gazes upon awareness, that is the spark of enlightenment. That's the birth of enlightenment. When awareness knows itself, right? And of course, I can't take really credit for that teaching all by myself because that's a teaching from Milarepa, right? From particularly from the 100,000 songs of Milarepa, which I'm sure I have somewhere too on the bookshelf. Um, and so Milarepa talks about awareness gazing upon awareness, and that being the impetus of enlightenment. And this is what we're trying to do, is for us to become aware of awareness itself. So when you become aware of awareness itself, then you you actually know and understand the illusion of ego and self, which is where our problems are, right? Because we're believing in a self that can experience, discomfort and suffering and trauma and everything, right? So because we're so fixated in and around this illusion of self, it begins to intensify our experience of suffering because we're believing in something that can experience the suffering, right? Um, so, turning back towards the question here, right? So when we're evoking an awakened consciousness that knows itself, right, then we are entering into a kind of a contract with that consciousness that like, well, we're agreeing when we tap into the consciousness of enlightened beings, we are also at the same time asking this consciousness in the expression of a deity or a teacher or whomever to actually move us, right? And so when you're evoking Medicine Buddha in this case, Medicine Buddha isn't going to keep you in suffering. Like, the practice will begin to open up ways for you to move out of suffering, right? And so that goes back to faith. Like, we have to have this faith in the practice, that the practice is actually going to move us, that the practice is actually taking on making decisions for us that are only for our well-being, right? So trust the practice to let you know how to move and when to move, to change or when to leave, whatever, right? And that's what the practice is always showing me. When to stay put, when to move, how to make decisions, the insights that the practice offers. It's about our liberation, right? So when we have this earnest faith in the practice is going to get us free, right? It gets us free from the smaller, minute things, and ultimately, it's going to help us get free from the illusion of samsara, right? So I hope that, I know some of you have been in the practice, in this particular practice on Mondays with me for a bit now. I'm just always interested in what impacts that you've seen. So if you have time right now, you may have time, since I may have a good 10 more minutes of talking in me. If some of you who've been in practice with me for a bit, if you want to like just kind of just briefly jot down uh, some impacts of the practices, what you've seen change over the time since you've been in practice. I think that'll be really helpful for those of us who are new in a space of this practice to get a sense of what happens or what's possible. Anyway, yeah, the change, right? But that what fuels this practice again is the faith that we have in the practice, that when we're evoking this energy, this consciousness, that it is working for our greater good. Like, it's working for our good, not for our detriments, right? Now, and these are practice. This is the light side. This is like light magic. Magic of light, magic that is grounded in bodhicitta, which is the wish for all of us to be free and happy. Like, so bodhicitta is the intention that says that, like, I'm only doing this because I want people to stop suffering, right? If that's the intention, you're practicing, light magic, right? So if you don't have that intention, now if you don't have that intention, it doesn't necessarily mean you're practicing dark arts, but it opens the door when the intention isn't clear for something malicious to sneak into your practice. Um, as I've told these stories before, I've known people through the years who've practiced magical traditions, like Tantra is a magic tradition, right? Um, whose really their intentions haven't been clear. They've not had malicious intentions. I know that for sure. But their intentions for benefiting haven't been clear. I see a lot of people entering magic through like this really narcissistic framework, which is closer to the darker side of magic than the light. Narcissism is self absorption, right? And you may start making certain decisions to preserve yourself that may end up harming others, in these practices. And plus, you start, you know, I'll say this first. I'm grateful for Tantra traditions because of the ways in which they taught me and continues to teach me to work with energy, to hold energy, to move energy, right? And a lot of people don't have that training coming into these magic traditions, and it just becomes suffering and overwhelming. And you can easily get burnt out. You can easily um, open up things, create things, spark things that you don't have the capacity to end, right? Um, I've had to work with several people in the past who they just have done things they've done something they shouldn't have done. They chanted something they shouldn't have chanted, and God forbid they touched the Ouija board and they open up a portal or a connection to some energy, some entity, and it gets you. Um, so So bodhicitta, this is the point of all this. Bodhicitta, the intention to help, right, is what protects us in these traditions, right? As I say all the time, that every session I say this, ask for help, right? So again, the seven homecomings practice is a practice that you can easily use to create protection barriers and to connect you directly to beings of light. They're trying to help you. Like this is why I do this practice every day, all the time in my dreams and my waking life. Like I want to be constantly reminded that I am surrounded, by good beings who want me and everyone to be free, including my ancestors, right? um, so let's see. Some of you've been posting things. Um, let's see. Yeah, so some comments about um, more people being more compassionate, more conscious of the invisible world. Boundaries really is another important thing. Being more conscious of boundaries. Um, it's giving people space to respond. Yeah, compassion is the principal, you know, I don't know, weapon, spell, whatever. Compassion is the key right now because we are losing compassion collectively, but actually, we're not necessarily losing compassion collectively. The trauma and grief and anger these are just really overwhelming experiences that make it hard for us to practice compassion. Because the root of compassion is empathy. Empathy is about opening. Telling the truth is hard to open when you feel like you're just full of pain, right? And you don't want to suffer more. So why do you open, right? But if you're not opening, you're not actually able to think about the experiences of others. Yeah. Oh, yep. You know, experience. Yeah, with energy work, magic practitioner, um, experience witch. Yeah, I tell you, I am connected to a coven, and I don't say I don't really consider myself a part of the coven, but I show up to the events, and um, and it's just been transformative for me to be just like on the periphery, the edges of communities doing this really beautiful magic. Um, yeah, it's just really beautiful. I know people in these columns that do all kinds of magic. I'm just like I never even imagined that people could be doing these kinds of magic and helping people. Like just doing something that's helping people. Um, yeah, this is really beautiful. So we're gonna start transitioning into practice just very quickly, very soon. I I'm still wanting us to, for those of you who are experienced with energy, like this is like very, I think this is second nature. I think for many of you who've been practicing with energy for a while, but for the rest of us, really developing sensitivity to energy takes labor and dedication. Of course, I came through the door of meditation for me. So my magic has been um, the foundation of my magic is meditation. I call it mind only magic. I think in terms of labels and names and titles to help. I do that because it helps to orient what I do, um, and to name what I draw from. Anyway, just like so meditation has been really the key part of my magic, which has opened the door to all kinds of other things as well. But again, just like the work of becoming sensitive to energies, right, um, is it really goes parallel and in collaboration with meditation practice. So again, like all of my systems of work um, and magic are really just rooted in meditation. I'm a meditation practitioner. At the end of the day, I'm a meditator, right? And so through meditation, developing the sensitivity to energy, right, and how to hold energy. So again, as we talked about, I think partially last week, pranayama, breath work, asana, visualizations, these are practices that are helping to deepen our capacity to hold energy, right? To hold it. I know we talked about, some of you have shared experiences about connecting to energies and just feeling antsy, and that's part of it, you know. But we do actually want to get to a place in our practice where we're just able to like ground that energy. And again, calling on the earth, right, is one of the ways that can, it's one of the things that can help us ground energy. I move a lot of energy around, you know. Um, And sometimes, yes, it's very uncomfortable. Yes, it's very like, it's grueling. But over time, right, as I get older, as I deepen in the practice, my capacity to hold and to allow energy really gets stronger and stronger. To hold the energy of love, is another part of this, which is, again, Seven Homecomings is a great way to get into that. Just drinking in this intense energy of care, right? And we have to get to a point in our practice where we're just able to do that in the moment, right? No matter what we're doing, no matter where we're at, we can just drop into this energy of care that's being radiated towards us by all kinds of beings that you did not imagine even existed. you know, ancestors and all kinds of deities. Many of you have ancestral deities. Believe me, not all these ancestral deities are great. Um, but you, but our ancestors. Now, granted, now I don't want to open up a can of worms to go down a rabbit hole or whatever. So I want to keep it really tight here when I say that our ancestors made connections, commitments to deities and entities that tie them, those entities, those deities, into our ancestral lines. Right? So we have connections to deities, like we may be, whatever, practicing a path, spirituality, or religion that's completely different than this deity that has maybe centuries ago been integrated into our familial line, right? And here's the can of worms here. We, in previous lives, we may have been our own ancestors who may have done that initial evoking and practicing of these entities. So maybe we were born into this life and maybe we forgot that connection. But I promise you, if you work really hard, they'll come and find you again. This personal experience, they'll come and find you again. And they'll be like, don't you remember that life where you said you'll always be a disciple of mine? And then if the deity isn't so helpful, or maybe the deity is trying to, I don't know, create harm, then you may have to get exorcised, because that entity may well be a demon. So there's always a fine line sometimes between help and harm. So these are the complexities of working with these energies. So again, what we're doing in Medicine Buddha is working with wisdom deities. Wisdom deities are only reflections of our own awakened nature, right? Wisdom deities only attract worldly deities that are on board with trying to help and liberate. So we talked about this before. So Medicine Buddha as a wisdom deity emanating from emptiness itself will attract worldly deities, right? Powerful beings who still are related to some form of ego, but who are vibrating on a higher energetic level, not too far away from us, but close enough that we can still have contact through practice. That wisdom beings attract these beings to help them carry out the work of, well, in case of Medicine Buddha, the work of healing, right? So everything around Medicine Buddha is fine, right? Everything we do here is fine. I can't say that for any other practice, right, that I'm not familiar with that you may be doing. Um, but you can begin to discern if an entity, energy, a spirit is helpful by, well, you can challenge, actually, the practice of challenging deities, which is really fun. So if you have these connections to deities, see, I told you this is going to be like a rabbit hole that I'm going to go down, but I promise you, this is just going to be the last thing that I say. But when you begin to challenge, deities that you maybe not for sure, like you can just be like, who are you? Who are you? You know, what are you doing? You know, there are some harmful spirits who would masquerade as beneficial spirits. You can feel that, you know. But if you're not sure, just always challenge is like, who are you? Even if you're having dreams, I know some of you have these direct experiences. This is why I'm saying this. Like, if you're not sure, you challenge it. You say, who are you? What do you want? Reveal yourself. Demand it. You know, um, and then call in your protectors, your guides, or just do the homecoming circle, right? And that's going to offer energy to challenge beings that you're not sure about. You know? This can also be done, for if you live in in a space that you may consider haunted. Beings like non-form beings living in the space is not the same thing as a space being haunted. A haunting means that these beings are trying to contact you or impact you in certain ways, right? That's the haunting, right? But if you just have beings just in your space and they're not bothering anything, they're not bothering you, but you can feel them, that's really not haunted. It's not really a situation of being haunted. Um, and we also understand, too, um, that multiple, levels, energetic levels of beings can inhabit the same physical space as well. And these beings don't even know sometimes that there are other beings and other dimensions of the space as well. There's actually been a lot of great movies um, covering this as well. Um, so, um, so what else? I guess what I'm also pointing to is confidence. Like, I just think that you have, we all do. We have tremendous power to impact the world, and I guess we already know that, right? But I'm talking about having the confidence to really create boundaries and casts or create barriers and borders to really keep certain energies, entities from impacting us, right? And to take that seriously. You're not so powerless. You can demand what you need and ask for the help. You know, the one thing that, I've said this over and over again, the one thing that bothers me so much is the ways in which we believe we're so isolated and alone. And that has never been the truth for any of us. No matter what we believe in, it's not the truth. Like, there are so many conscious energies around us who are here to help, right? And of course, vice versa is a lot of conscious energies that are here to harm. And what we're trying to do is intentionally connect to the beneficial energies, right? To start intentionally channeling that energy into our life to begin to shape the world around us. Now, this is, again, another definition of magic, right? And in Medicine Buddha, we're channeling this energy to heal ourselves, to heal those we offer prayers for, our community, our world, and so forth. So we're becoming channels. We're becoming channels. In my next book, New Saints, I am actually giving you a practice, which we've already done, but I'm giving people a formal practice of channeling. It's called channeling prayer, right? Which is kind of the prayer that I do, is channeling prayer, right? I'm connecting to strong energies, channeling those energies through my experience, through the lens of bodhicitta, right? That may I be of help, you know, may I reduce harm, may I reduce suffering. Um, so people, you're very much more confident, and we have to actually uh, really, really get hips at this right now, because we are in really intense darkness right now. I think you all get that. Um, we haven't lost. The war is not lost, but we're in the trenches right now, and this is the work that we can do as spiritual activists, um, to really start opening ourselves to energies of light, and start letting those energies move through our bodies to radiate out into the world. And we do this every session. Like, this is, I think, one of the core practices that we do is radiating light, right? And this is what we have to keep doing in the face of so much ignorance and the lack of compassion and confusion, like everything, the lies and the grief and everything. Like, we just have to open ourselves to light, let that light radiate from us into the world. We're becoming lamps in the darkness of the world. Just like, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. All of that, right? Like, so many of these songs, I know some of you are talking about coming out of Christianity and so forth. Well, there are so many um, communities, ancient communities, right? Who, well, yes, there are so many ancient communities who, like, are, I think, descendant, maybe, from early Christian teachings, but early Christianity was, once we study, like, once we start to understand who Jesus was, and we start getting into other communities, particularly communities who center themselves around, for instance, Mary Magdalene. Like, Mary Magdalene is a powerful priestess. You begin to understand a different history, a different thing that was going on with Christ, and all the cults, right, that were a part, that were active and around and older, right, um, than Jesus, who were functioning during the time of Jesus, in that part of the world, and the kind of magic that they were doing, and how those magic traditions were, over centuries, incorporated into Christianity, incorporated into the Catholic Church. But how these other new magic communities, deriving from actually the relationship of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, how those communities, cults, and in this case, I use cults in a very positive way. Well, actually, I'll just say communities instead. But these communities formed because of the magic that Jesus was using, magic of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And one would say all the disciples and the disciples who became the apostles, right? Mary, mother of Jesus as well. In certain communities, ancient magic communities, is also considered a very powerful priestess. So it's so much happening, it's so much, it's, I just think it's so rich. And even just coming into, like, some of the traditions you have heard of, like hoodoo, being the black, kind of the Black American magic tradition that's derived from African spiritualities as well as indigenous spiritualities here. Um, Voodoo, right? And how these like traditions use, for instance, the Bible and mythology in the Bible as magic. It's the basis for magic, which is all just really, again, fascinating, rich, um, also complicated as well. So there's magic everywhere. So I'm going to say there's magic everywhere. There's a lot of things happening, and all you have to do, even if this sounds really overwhelming, all you have to do is come back to the intention of bodhicitta. Why am I doing this? Who do I want to help? Right? And let bodhicitta become the key that opens up these experiences of power and energy, and allow that intention to channel this energy into what's beneficial for everyone, you know? So, voodoo, yes. So let's begin. Let's go into our practice. So let's begin with bodhicitta, actually. You know, so why are you practicing? This is how you open up bodhicitta. Why are you doing this? Right? Like, why are you practicing? Why are you here doing this thing with me? Like, what do you, it's not necessarily what you hope to get out of it. We don't want to get so much into an agenda or a goal, but we come back to the moment and say, I'm doing this because I want to help. Like, I want beings to suffer less. I want to suffer less. So whenever you say other beings, like when you say, I want all beings to be free from suffering, you have to know that you're including yourself in that. Like, it's not other beings and you, right? It's us. I want us to be free from suffering. This is the core tenet of bodhicitta. I want us to be free. I want us not to suffer. I want us to have what we need to be well. But ultimately, bodhicitta is just this, I just want us to be free. When we say free, free from everything, free from suffering. So bodhicitta is only the wish for all of us to be free from suffering. So you have to ground yourself there. And it has to be as deep and total as possible. I am doing this because I want all of us to be free. And if you can just ground yourself there, the practice works itself out from there. Like, if you don't have this foundation of bodhicitta, the practice can be just anywhere, right? And you start, wanting to hurt people, right? You start casting spells to hurt people, and this is not what we're doing. The only magic that we're doing is wanting people to be free from suffering, right? And this doesn't mean that people won't experience the fruition of their karma, right? Because this is also a part of it. You know, there are many ways to purify the karma before it ripens, but often that purification means that you're ripening karma in a way that feels contained, that feels like you can hold it, right? So there are many practices where you can do that, and many prayers that you can offer to make that happen. So I'm only practicing now to reduce harm for everyone to be free. You can put this in your own words. And what does that feel like to make that, to really ground yourself in bodhicitta, that you're doing this only for people to be free? And I want to also point out that even the people who hurt us, we want them to be free. Everyone needs to get free. So, what does that feel like to awaken that intention? Everyone, for everyone to be free. What does that mean for you to be free? What does that feel like to wish for your own freedom? And so, when you're ready, start paying some attention to the body and beginning just by shifting your attention to just noticing the weight of the body, your body making contact with the seats. So, this is just opens the door to the earth, essentially, in this form of practice. So, we get into the weight of our bodies and how the seats rising to hold us, to meet us. And then if we shift our attention even more, we begin to touch the earth. And this is an energetic touching, right? So it's the energy of our attention touching into the energetic consciousness of the earth. So maybe another way to say this is that your consciousness is touching into the consciousness of the earth. And you can feel like an energetic support that begins to arise in your practice. This is like the essence of earth touching practice. Like feeling the earth rising, feeling the foundation, the stability of the earth, feeling that energy. Like the energy of the earth permeates through everything, especially our bodies. Even also in our consciousness, the energy of earth and the consciousness. And what does that feel like? Right, to relate to the consciousness as an experience of groundedness, stability. And I wonder if you can allow the energy of the earth to hold you. And again, just exploring what that experience is like for you. What does that mean for the energy of the earth to hold you? So we're going to, from this space, move into our first opening mantra, which is Om Inasange Kino Soha, which will be in the chat box there. And this is really, for me, a mantra that really begins to awaken the consciousness of Medicine Buddha, that really begins to help me. Well, it begins to ensure, really, that I'm evoking Medicine Buddha in this moment, to allow that energy to start waking up around us and inside of us. And for some of us, the energy of the earth, the consciousness of the earth actually can transform into the consciousness of Medicine Buddha as well. Minla Sangye, as Medicine Buddha is called in Tibetan, Minla Sangye, Kino, Soha, so Kino, to know. So Medicine Buddha, please know me. Right? But again, we can pray for Medicine Buddha to awaken, Medicine Buddha to hold us, Medicine Buddha, to love us, whatever we need from Medicine Buddha. This is another important point here before we continue. I want you to ask yourself what you need before we chant this mantra. What do you need? And whatever you need is what you begin to pray to Medicine Buddha for, right? So if you're grieving right now, so the mantra becomes Medicine Buddha, Aminla Sangye, please take care of me. Please tend to my grief. Please offer me what I need to heal, to work with grief, whatever it may be. What do you need right now? Are you afraid? Are you anxious? Then you ask for something to help you work with anger. I'm sort of to work with, you know, fear and anxiety and anger, I guess. Not to be pacified, but to be held. This is a difference. We're not pacifying, we're holding. And that may be a very, very subtle difference. That is an important difference. We're not praying for things to go away, but we're praying for us to have the resources to hold whatever arises. Because again, that is basic meditation work. To hold everything that arises, to respond to what needs to be responded to. And so we're going to begin the chanting now. And again, asking for what you need, allowing the consciousness of Medicine Buddha to awaken. All right? So we'll begin. We'll begin with Om, just chanting Om, then we'll go into the mantra for a couple of times. Okay. Om la sange kino soa. 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 So, in this moment, we've done this kind of practice before where we imagine ourselves opening. And so to get there, we can imagine that we're like flowers, flower buds, right? And just blooming. We imagine that our bodies are flower buds and we begin to bloom, open, falling open. Our petals are falling back. And what does that feel like to bloom and blossom within the awakened consciousness of Medicine Buddha? This is a really important kind of channeling, opening visualization that we can always do. It's just opening and blossoming within the light of Medicine Buddha's consciousness. So again, blossoming, opening to the awakened consciousness of Medicine Buddha. And again, the sensitivity to energy. What are you sensing? What are you noticing? And it's okay if you don't notice or sense anything. But we're just trying. This is what practice is. We're trying, right, to experience. We're trying to notice. What's different? What's going on? So again, the earth rising to meet us, the seat rising to hold us. Feeling the warmth of the light of Medicine Buddha around us. We're opening, we're blossoming. Whatever that process is for you, to blossom, to open, what does that mean for you in your practice right now? So this is where we're going to stay for the first part of our practice, or the first part of our main mantra. As we move into the main mantra, Medicine Buddha's mantra, we're just opening, blossoming, connecting to the energy of Medicine Buddha around us. So Tea Tao, Dekenze, Maha Dekenze, Rasa Sumam Gata Soha. So prayer to Medicine Buddha for healing. This is all we're doing right now for this first part of the mantra. We're sitting, opening, blossoming into the consciousness of Medicine Buddha and just seeing what we can notice, noticing what we notice. But allowing ourselves to be cared for. Allowing ourselves to be offered what we need right now. So letting the practice just offer the thing that you enter into practice needing. Right? So we begin our mantra practice. O te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze ma begenze rasa sumunga te sua. Te atang begenze begenze, ma begenze, raza sumo gati soa. Deata om begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumo gati soa. Deata om begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumo gati soa. Deata om begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumo gati soa. Dehada begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumangati 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 soa. So we're entering into our offering our prayers. As always, I begin by just especially inviting all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Dharma protectors, all guiding spirits, beings of light, benevolent ancestors, our descendants as well, including also offering, calling in the earth and all the elements. We ask all those we've invited to listen as we offer these prayers, and we ask our benefactors who've gathered in this moment to work on our behalf to bring about the fruition of what we most need to happen for ourselves and for our loved ones and for our communities and for the world. We begin by offering prayers for healing for all of the collective grief, fear, and heartbreak. We're offering prayers for healing from trauma for me, my family, my lineage, and all beings. Offering prayers for me as I come out of denial that I was diagnosed with emphysema 4 years ago. Offering prayers for all beings protecting the light. Offering prayers for healing for Joan Kay after hip surgery. And prayers for the healing of Joel's eyes. Offering prayers for my own health as I deal with incoming test results that are overwhelming, on top of chronic conditions. Prayers for grace. Prayers to be held in care. Prayers that all feel care. Offering prayers for my parents, my family, for myself to be able to dwell in health and in freedom and flow in the face of fears and oppression Prayers for freedom for all. Prayers of protection and veneration of Bulima. Prayers for all beings, for love, care, and protection of Lama Rod and all who embody the Dharma. Prayers for Tibet and Tibetan people. Prayers for QT BIPOC and abolition. Offering prayers for those with anxiety, health issues, and loss. Offering prayers for our Mother Earth, for our planet, for her healing, and our insight into what we can do for healing. Offering prayers for people with depression and anxiety, for trans people, and for my friend G. Offering prayers for Tommy, who recently transitioned. Prayers for support to reach the grief through moving through our community. Prayers for A's heartbreak. And prayers for those causing the most harm. And prayers that the light and love of divinity awaken everyone in their deepest heart with showers of love and mercy. Prayer for queer folks afraid to be in their skin. For the rivers, those of us who have for those of us who've been thought annihilating the other is the only path. Or for those of us who've thought that annihilating the other is the only path. Offering prayers for all the children who suffer alone through emotional and physical abandonment. And offering prayers for my dear Aunt True, who died on Saturday. Prayers for me as I heal from a bronchial infection after COVID. Prayers for Mr. Hine. Offering prayers for breaking through the paralysis on our climate crisis, a culture change crisis. Prayer for my husband and I as we enter a new phase of our marriage after 2 decades. Offering prayers for my Dharma sister Aisha and I as we both journey with the unpredictability of chronic illness. Offering prayers for those facing legal issues, for release, justice, and mercy. Offering prayers for my brother as he experiences other dimensions of consciousness in this world. May he be protected and safe. Offering prayers for everyone in prison and for our broken criminal justice system. Offering prayers for all beings to be free. I want to offer all the unspoken prayers as well, for those prayers who have not been offered in the chat, but those prayers that we hold just in our hearts and continue to pray for the health, healing, well-being of every being in this world system and all world systems, that systems of power, abuse, marginalization, violence, all be disrupted. And may the true abolitionist dream of the world awaken as quickly as possible, where we all have access to the resources we need to be well, where we're connected to communities where we belong, where our relationships are based on love and clarity and honesty. May we all be free from all the causes and conditions of suffering in this life and in all of our lives to come. And may the light of the awakened beings remain with us until we ourselves remember that we too are awakened beings. May we achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. And just returning now back to our mantra. We're just in the second part of our mantra, beginning to imagine that everyone we've offered prayers for, and really all beings, that all beings somehow or in some way begin to blossom in the light of all awakened beings, of the great awakened consciousness itself. That we're able to bloom within this tremendous field of love and care and sacredness and beauty, that with everyone blossoming in this divine energy, we imagine the world and all worlds becoming like beautiful gardens of awakened beings blossoming in the light of their own enlightened consciousness. As we go back into our mantra, may we all blossom. O te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gate sua. Te a taum begenze, Beganze, ma beganze, raza sumugane zoa. Deada o beganze, beganze, ma beganze, raza sumugane zoa. Deada o beganze, beganze, ma beganze, raza sumugane zoa. Deada o beganze, beganze, ma beganze, raza sumugane zoa. Beata, 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 beganze, beganze, ma beganze, raza sumugane zoa. So once again, shifting our attention to the seat, noticing the weight of our body making contact with the seat. Grounding, connecting to the earth. Just letting our minds relax from attempting to or engaging in this visualization that we've been working through. Letting that part of the mind rest. Just noticing the space around you, sounds, the texture of light, temperature. When you're ready, we're going to transition into our last mantra in our session, just for just a minute or two. Um, Durga, the Great Mother, Durga Ma, a very powerful expression of the Great Mother, the divine, feminine, cosmic consciousness. And again, Durga is about protection, clarity, confidence, strength. But we chant her, we invoke her just to connect to energies of protection as we move through the world. And I pray that whatever energy of connection, of protection that we connect to, that this energy stays with us until we meet again. As we chant Durga Ma, just imagine that this blue, soft, radiant light begins to radiate from the heart center, creating kind of a field of protection around us. We can also imagine that the same field of blue light also protects those connected to us, our loved ones, our communities, our families, as we continue to move through these really difficult times. We're going to start with just chanting then we go into the full mantra. So Dum, Durgaye, Nama. Prayer to Durga Ma, the Great Mother. Beginning with Drum Durgaye Namaha. Dum 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 Durgaye Daya Namaha. Om Dum Daya Namaha. Om Dum Daya Namaha. Om Dum Daya Namaha. Om. So again, returning your attention to the weight of the body and the seat. And allowing the weight of the body to kind of bring you back. If you've been away, traveling or journeying, or just distracted, which is okay, just allowing the weight of the body and the seat to bring you back to this timeline, to this moment. Offering to the earth anything that you're still struggling to hold or something that you don't need to hold. Just let the earth hold it, that energy, that experience, and letting the earth neutralize that experience for you. All right, so when you're ready, just weighting the body through whatever a slow, gentle movement, any stretching. Maybe if cleansing breaths are part of your practice, you can do those as inhaling very deeply through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, and just releasing anything that you're holding on to. Releasing stale energy. Let it go. And finally, we'll turn our attention to Shanti Deva's prayer from the Bodhisattva's way of life. Okay? And we'll recite this 3 times. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away, and may I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed, just like space, and the great elements such as earth. May I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector for those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. Okay. Thank you all so very much. Um, for those of you who want to hang on just like another 5 minutes, I'm just going to really just get through. There's just two more questions here. The first question is what is the undo? Ooh, this is a good question. What is the undo if you open a bad door? Also, any tips to discern spirits versus your own unmetabolized intense feelings from the past? This is the later part of this question is so interesting. Now, I'm only going to get 5 minutes to answer these two questions, so I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. Because in certain traditions, the unmetabolized feelings, like past trauma, for instance, they actually they're projected as spirits. So, often I call that like an indigenous worldview, right? A shamanic worldview. But I think it's just another way for us to get into it. Um, and it's really hard to discern, actually. But either way, I believe that you can really approach unmetabolized trauma or either a legit conscious entity um, through some of the same practices that we're doing tonight. So I think that's really like, um, I think when also what I'm talking about is the externalizing, the externalizing of emotions, into beings as well. Um, it's the same approach, like it's the kindness, the gentleness, the holding space, right? It's talking to these experiences, right? Telling, just saying like, this is what I need from you, you know? Um, Now, of course, the data that we get back from this kind of interaction can tell us if this is actually unmetabolized emotion or trauma, or if it's actual conscious energy, right? Um, of another being. Um, so I'll just say this. So I don't know if this like actually wraps up anything, but I think that over time, what I've trained, and it's not that anyone actually taught me this, but it's just something I intuitively started actually trying to figure out was, what's mine and what's others. Like, or so what's happening in my experience and what's happening in the space around me. Like, I've just been really, I focus on that discernment really intensely in my practice, you know. Um, so I don't know if that's helpful or not. But we can come back to this next week as well. Um, and the first part of the question, what do you do if you open a bad door? I would, again, pray. Like, this is at the end of the day, when you don't know what to do, you should pray. But also, you should always start with prayer as well. Like, so when I don't know how to do something, if I'm lost, if I'm like whatever's happening, I pray. Like, if I've done something energetically that I'm not sure about, I pray. I ask other beings to come and close some stuff down for me, if that's the case. Um, and then over time, it depends on your sensitivity, your capacity, your abilities, but like basically prayer, right? And if you have abilities beyond that, then of course you can use those to close doors. A bad door, sometimes I interpret that as a portal. Closing a portal isn't like the easiest thing to do, but it's not impossible to do. Um, there are people who do specialize in portals as well. Um, there are, I think there are some portals that, some big portals in the world that need to be closed, and I'm really interested in doing that because they're opening the doorways that's actually channeling a bunch of dark energy into the world, which is not helpful right now. So I love to close portals down that aren't helpful and open up portals of light so beings of light can get into this world. But anyway, that's another talk. We'll talk about that later. Okay, last question. Does wisdom Buddha also attract us because we are resonating with the intention of healing and light? Well, yes. And because we are Buddhas. So we're just in tantric Buddhist practice, what we're doing is essentially faking it till we make it. Like we're doing wisdom deity practices to remind us that we are in fact wisdom deities, that we emanate from the same essence that medicine emanates from. So we're essentially the same, but we don't know that. We don't get that. So we're trying to remember that through practice. Practice helps us to dissolve delusion, right? That keeps us from remembering who we are, right? Um, and also the intention of healing and light will also draw more healing light energy as well. So intention draws, well, the intention itself will draw I guess I would say corresponding energy. Like a good light intention draws light energy, dark intention draws dark energy. Which brings me back to one of my PIF instructions, which is to avoid Ouija boards. So if you can just do that. To deal with a Ouija board, you need very strong connections to your team. I say team, right? To your guides, your circle, right? Your homecoming circle, I would say. Like you need very strong connections to work with certain kinds of practices and implements um, to protect you. So, but anyway, um, well, thank you thank you about the comment practices, um, addressing questions about spirit and energies beyond human being, addressed, that I'm addressing here. The thing is, people don't address these questions because they don't actually understand it. As a really, one of my teachers, one of my lamas once said that it was so funny, but actually she wrote this down, so I didn't hear it directly from her. But she once just wrote that, particularly about tantras, that we keep calling tantra secret and esoteric as an excuse because most people don't have no idea what's going on with it, right? So they couldn't explain it to begin with. So we just say it's secret and we can't talk about it, which I found hilarious. But I think it's very true. There are a lot of people who don't know how to talk about it. But again, my framework, my lens is contemplative practice. And mindfulness and meditation. Like this is the lens that I can address all this through. You know, and you need a grounding. And this is the last thing I'll say. We need a grounding lens. And I think with one of the downfalls of New Age spirituality, is that there's no grounding tradition to link things together, you know. And I do believe, I do believe that you have to train seriously in something, right? Instead of trying to do everything, right? So I can only do what I do. So I spent like 20 years in Tantra and Buddhist Tantra, and that's my grounding. And so that's a lens that I put on, and I can move into different communities and different spaces and study with different teachers, and then actually process what I'm learning through this lens so I can create this connectivity. I can see similarities. I can organize things in a way that makes sense for me, right? It helps me to see the continuity, the thread. I would say the thread that runs through everything, which again is another definition of tantra. Is like developing sensitivity to the thread that runs through everything, the connectivity of everything. All right, that is it. Hope everyone's well. I hope to see you all in spaces this week. If not, I will see you again next Monday, and just keep July 9th in your calendar as we prepare to open up registration. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll talk to you or see you again in some other forum. All right.